Welcome back to TYT Sports, everybody. So, as many know by this point, we already put up a clip this morning. The trade deadline, the hot stove for National Basketball Association, the NBA, is already on fire because what happened on Sunday with DeMarcus Cousins going to the Pelicans and moving a two-time All-NBA second-team player at the deadline really doesn't happen all that often, even with the rumors of it happening for the Paris, supposed to be happening for like 2 straight years. But I have Andre Snellings on with me, the Professor DRZ. Andre, how we doing?
Doing good, man. Doing good. Can't be bored today.
Cannot be bored today. That's definitely a good way to put it. So I got to ask your opinion first. I want to give you at least like a minute here to discuss the Cousins trade. There's probably not enough discussion as it is going to be happening. But what were your initial thoughts when you saw Wojnarowski, Cousins traded to Pelicans? Your thought?
I'm pretty sure I tweeted it out. It was something along the lines of, what the hell? Like, how do I wake up to this? How did the Kings, like there's something that a comedian always says, when a terrible idea comes up, that someone had to come up with that terrible idea and someone else had to be there, see that and say, no, that's a great idea. Like, so, I mean, everybody's blaming Vlade, because he's the GM, but I swear he had to tell somebody that said, you know what? No, that's a good idea, Vlade. Let's go with that. I mean, I've never, there are times when you see a trade and who's going, who won the deal or who's trying to, get the better talent versus trading off to, we're playing for the future or we're trying to get, cap space or something. The Kings got nothing. We went to Vegas last year. They got the least impressive of the lottery picks that we saw play in Vegas. They got Tyreek Evans, who they had already had before and had already left, and then Langston Galloway. I mean, it's, no disrespect to any of them. But honestly, Omri Caspi, who went with Cousins, might have been worth that package by himself. And then, oh, by the way, we're going to throw in one of the best talents in the NBA as well.
And to add insult to injury, too, which I still find amazing, Matt Barnes is probably better than all 3 of those players they received, and they had to waive him.
Yeah. I mean, clearly with this move, they had no intention of trying to compete this year. So, that's the one part of it that I'm like, well, that makes sense. I mean, if you're going to gut your team, you might as well jettison the 36-year-old with, questionable attitude in the past because he brings you nothing at this point. But the hilarious thing for me, I already started my DFS column for Thursday. I started it yesterday. And I had Matt Barnes. I had DeMarcus Cousins, I'm going to have to go back and change a whole bunch of stuff.
You're thinking this whole time. What's so funny is, well, those who don't know in the audience, both Andre writes DFS advice columns for RotoWire and also does the Hoops Lab, which I would hope by this point you guys know about the Hoops Lab. But if you're a first-time viewer, by all means, go to the Hoops Lab. And I do a lot of game wraps and game previews, and I also do the Beating the Book column on Tuesdays, I write them on Tuesdays for Wednesday. We got like a break this week because of the All-Star game, so you can start preparing for those things and looking for trends going into Thursday, and they stole the one time you can get ahead. They're like, backtrack, got to do even more math now. Figure out what Pelicans
They just blew up everything,
right?
Because I don't know what to expect now numbers-wise, even from Davis and Cousins, right? Because their numbers won't stay the same. They're going to have to adjust in some way or another.
Right.
And their impacts will adjust as well. I'm actually going to write about that hopefully this evening to put on Nylon Calculus, how this can really work or might not work based on how they adjust to each other's presence. But no matter what, their box score numbers are going to have to change.
I agree with that. And I'm rooting for Drew Holiday. I'm rooting for Drew Holiday for many reasons that have to do with off-the-court issues, including what happened, unfortunately, to his wife, but now she's in recovery. Those who don't know, she had like a very rare, dangerous brain surgery on cancer because of a cancerous tumor, if I'm correct about that. And he came back this season. Pelicans gave him all the time off he needed. So I'm just rooting for Drew Holiday to do really well. I think everyone should be rooting for Drew Holiday to do really well in this situation, although he's probably going to get a max contract that he might not deserve for his play. His character might deserve it, but that really doesn't really justify how much money you're getting in the NBA. All right, so let's move on. So Cousins gets moved, which means now I believe, well, nobody's safe. Everyone could be moved. There could be fire sales. There's actually 3. Now, I used ESPN's trade machine, which is a very flawed machine because as long as the money adds up, you can trade anybody. You actually can. As long as
apparently that's not flawed anymore. I mean, because it seems like the Kings used that trade engine to come up with the salary matches. All right, let's do it.
Well, that's how the rumor is. Lade used the trade machine from ESPN, and he said, "No, look, successful. We get negative 20 wins." So the first one I have involves the Celtics and the Bulls, which means you can already start thinking of the players that I'm about to throw out there. And this is, again, these are just to kind of give a picture of what could happen. The pieces and draft picks, unfortunately, you can't add draft picks to the trade, but I'm sure they'd be included as well. So this first element we have is Jimmy Butler to the Celtics in return for Tyler Zeller, maybe a Jaylen Brown. Marcus Smart's always floating around with trade rumors this season, and maybe a draft pick. This puts Jimmy Butler next to Isaiah Thomas in a backcourt that we know on the defensive end in the fourth quarter needs help because we know that Isaiah Thomas could outscore pretty much anybody in the fourth quarter. He's actually outscoring everybody in the fourth quarter. So is this something now that Cousins is off the table that the Celtics really are looking into grabbing someone like Jimmy Butler because they could have offered anything that would have been better than what the Kings got?
Yeah, I don't know how to factor in what the Kings got for Cousins because I have to feel like all 28 other teams in the NBA would have offered them a better package than what they actually got. So there had to be other reasons why they didn't take that package. So that aside, this Bulls Celtics, there has been a lot of talk about Jimmy Butler, about the rumors that the Celtics are interested. He fits the narrative of, that Danny Ainge has been looking to try to cash in some of his chips for another star, a superstar caliber player. And he also fits the narrative that Danny Ainge is one of the first adopters and best of the analytics GMs. And so a guy like Jimmy Butler, all of his analytics seem to indicate he really is that good. So he would fit as someone that you could see Ainge going after. I wrote an article last week about Isaiah Thomas and how he measures out as arguably, at least in the top 5 of offensive players in the NBA, but at least using this real plus minus stat and also kind of the box score estimates of plus minus, he measures out as by far the worst defensive player in the NBA.
Right.
And so, with that being the case, there's a certain type of team that you could build around him. And that maybe if the Celtics built a Allen Iverson 2001 76ers type team around him, full of defensive players, that they could maybe compete with Isaiah as the centerpiece. But so this Jimmy Butler trade isn't necessary if you believe that to be true. However, Butler is still a heck of a talent, and he would still fit that model. So the reason to work with the Celtics currently is because they got Avery Bradley and they've got Marcus Smart and all these good defensive wings. Well, Butler's just as good of a defensive wing, plus he's a much better offensive player. So I think if Danny could pull that off, he probably would do it. But how close it is to happening versus what I think ultimately he needs to do is bring in a major defensive anchor in the middle. This Butler trade wouldn't preclude that. But, so if it happened, I would not be surprised. But I don't think he necessarily has to do that either.
Right. There's still 2 weeks or about 10 days to the trade deadline. Cousins could still go to the Celtics.
This is true. This is true.
Let's not count this out.
Yeah, I have to feel like New Orleans is like, you know what, we just found some money on the ground, and we're just going to go ahead and put it in our pocket and walk off.
This is all a long con for Brooklyn's number 1 overall pick that belongs to Boston right now.
Oh yeah. And also Sam Hinkie was trending this morning because Philadelphia, Hinkie, while he was there, he had traded for the Kings' first-round pick. I want to say he has the ability to swap first-round picks in 2017, and he gets their pick outright in 2019 or something like that. And so when people talk about the winners of the trade, it's like the New Orleans Pelicans and Sam Hinkie. this trade made him the posthumous GM of the year. Well, not posthumous. What do you call it when you're no longer the GM? But whatever that, he's the executive of the year now.
That's unbelievable. Man, if I was in Sacramento, I'd look, it's a very politically active time. I'd be boycotting the Kings. I would just be picketing outside. Like, it's insanity. And they might, for all we know, no one's showing up to the game tonight, not tonight, but Thursday, Friday when they play next. All right, so this clip is getting a little bit on the lengthy side, although let us know if you like the longer length clips in the comment section below. But we'll be back in just a second, and by that I mean exactly an hour, to do part 2 of the NBA trade deadline primer.